This is Epic Web3 podcast. My name is Alex. I'm co-founder of Epic Web3. We make professional events all over the world for Web3 builders. I'm today with Andy. Andy is a co-founder of DevRel Head, educational and media company in DeFi. Hey Andy, how's it going?
Yes, sir. Two in a row, two podcasts back to back. I'm in the same spot as I was last time and ready to talk to Raza. So, yeah, man.
Yeah, today we're joined by Raza from Scroll, who is in charge of DevRel, and hopefully Sandy Peng, who's a co-founder. Scroll is an EVM compatible zk rollup, and yeah, we have some interesting questions. So yeah, hi Raza.
Hey everyone, hey Alex and Andy, thanks for having me. Excited to talk.
Sure. So I've just looked at your Twitter. I mean, Scroll's Twitter account, and you announced office hours, and one of the most popular questions was that why the transaction cost on Scroll is so high, like $2-3 per transaction. Looks more like a layer one than layer two. What can you say about this?
Yeah, well, it depends also, what time frame you're talking about. I mean, bear market, bull market transactions are wildly different. I often explain, transacting on an L2 being like, a train. So the more people are on a train, obviously, we'll be able to it will affect the cost of, the cost that's driving the train. Right now, what you're seeing, maybe taking a step back, is that a couple of things are influencing the price. I would say that all L2s are improving their infrastructure, and so with the coming of uh, proto-dank sharding on L1 Ethereum, and some improvements that we'll make on the infrastructure, I'm definitely optimistic, and in our roadmap, we'll see a decrease in gas prices. But obviously, like the current state of gas prices is also heavily influenced by the price of Ethereum. And so, if you look at the transaction structure today, a big part of the transaction costs are driven by the data commitment that we do on L1. So, the gas prices are not where we want it to be. But I think on the flip side, we're seeing uh, transactions increasing in quantity and volume, so that's good. And so our aim, and I'm sure we're going to talk about it in a bit, is we're very dev centric, developer focused, and making sure that we solve this scalability issue for developers. And this is one of those things that's on our roadmap, where we'll make sure and ensure that we're here to solve the scalability issue, and this is obviously a big part of it. And we'll make sure that, or we'll do our utmost best to play a part in driving the resources down that it takes to deploy an application.
Tell us about the ZK EVM. So Scroll is committed to being like fully EVM compatible. Why do you think it is so important to be EVM compatible versus having like alternative VMs or something?
Yeah, so we're a layer two for Ethereum. Like I said, trying to or working to solve the fundamental issue of scalability, and we want to be there where the devs are and bring the solution towards the devs. So we function as an extension of Ethereum, and by solving this issue of reducing the gas fees and throughput, and so supporting the Ethereum ecosystem and helping the devs build without limitations. So Ethereum has proven product market fit, through various examples in gaming and DeFi and through their tech stack in a decentralized and secure manner. And so tying it back to Scroll, we want to provide, security is very important to us, but that ability to build these apps. And so being EVM compatible for those reasons is very important to us. And so maybe a practical answer, it means that you have an optimal dev experience, Foundry, Hardhead, Ape, you can all use it out of the box. It also means that any innovative solutions that are still based on the Ethereum virtual machine means you can port it over and use it on Scroll. And then I think lastly, it's like, a lift and shift of your skills. So a lot of people spend a lot of time learning how to build on in the Ethereum ecosystem. Now, again, we're focused on solving these issues for developers. So you can come and again, we're an extension of the Ethereum ecosystem. So they live in the same ecosystem and benefit of the removal of these limitations.
Nice. It's good to hear it from you because, to be honest, from the outside looking in through the lens of evaluating various rollups over the last, I don't know, 8 to 12 months, that's the vibe that I've had from Scroll. Is like, okay, they're like this super Ethereum aligned like roll up, bunch of chillers, like just super Ethereum, super heavy. And that's awesome. And I think Ethereum's kind of push towards the more data focused rather than like computational focused roadmap will help to alleviate some of those costs, like you said, like 4844 and things like that, and then tying it back into like the developer experience. We've heard, I mean, and there's contrary opinions running around with regards to EVM, and then there's this VM, that VM, and so there's definitely a conversation there, and I think that EVM is definitely. In terms of dominance, losing dominance, but I can't say it's losing ground. And so I think that like pull is important as for the reasons that you said. And then I'm kind of curious on the specific design choice with like the ZK VM itself. So you guys are like basically a Type One ZK rollup, if I'm not mistaken. And then there's also like as you go further away from the EVM, it becomes Type 2, 3, and 4 as per Vitalik's writings. Is that like exactly how it works? And you guys are Type One, right? Just to
We're careful with the types, but the characteristic of Vitalik is correct. Vitalik, for those who are listening or maybe new to this, did an article of compatibility versus performance, where a Type 1 is a fully equivalent Ethereum virtual machine, but the proof overhead, so the time to generate a proof to say, hey, these transactions are valid, is very, very high and difficult. Whereas and this is also called bytecode equivalent, being that on a lowest level of the smart contract, you're equivalent to Ethereum processing the smart contract. And then you have a type 4, which is not so compatible with Ethereum, but the performance of generating a proof for these transactions is very high. Now, the reason I'm saying is it's a bit, I would say misleading sometimes, and especially at this point, is first of all, Web3 moves fast. So, by this time, you see people saying, "Oh, I'm a type 0," or you hear other types out there. And I think that the main message with this typing would be is how close are you to Ethereum? What does it mean for the developer? So I would like to answer this question by saying, you know, we're EVM compatible right now, which means you lift and shift these dev tools, you can apply them. There are some pre-compiles that we don't support with the emphasis yet. So there are some that we support in limited and some yet. So SHA-256, I think, is the most famous one. I will say that these are used in edge use cases. If you look at the opcodes, we fully support them. I think the only one that reverts at the moment is self-destruct, but that's going to be deprecated soon. So we're fully on that level, and you're actually already noticing. So something I can share with you in my interaction with developers is we're becoming a home for applied ZK as well, because that works. So if you look at frameworks such as Noir, for instance, they even mentioned are in our docs. You can deploy today, and that doesn't actually go for every ZK rollup at the moment. So um, I understand where you're going with that. I think different rollups will categorize themselves in certain ways, but our focus is we are EVM compatible today, which means a lift and shift of the dev tools and dev experience you have in the Ethereum ecosystem.
Nice. Scrolls definitely top three bets in people's minds for ZKVM. I think there might be one or two. That's limiting, but like I think there's one or two that dominate as far as why do we need 18 different ZKVMs, especially if we're like between 0 and 1 types. So I think I mean the applied cryptography stuff sounds awesome, and yeah, Alex, what you got for us?
Yeah, one quick clarification I want to make. So we're not a type 1. So type 1 actually means, that you're equivalent. And so, I
Compatible,
don't know. Type 2 would be compatible, and type
right?
1 is equivalent.
So
Yeah,
can we say that you're type 2?
I mean, most people would categorize it like that. Like I said,
Yeah.
I think the typing would be misleading. I think the main
Yes.
messaging is devs can build today, just like on Ethereum, just like on Scroll. Yeah,
EVM compatible.
that's
Okay.
it.
Okay.
That's
Yeah,
it.
Okay.
makes sense.
And what can you say about other VMs? So we had a pod with Fuel, for example, who are building Fuel VM with Cartesi, who has their own VM. So in which cases do you think alternative VMs make sense, and where EVM is better?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. You know, maybe taking a step back, what I love about the Web3 space is that, you know, I think we and which we don't get enough credit for is the bleeding edge technology. We're like, you know, you hear say a lot people like innovating a lot and working a lot, developing a lot, but that's really happening in Web3 at a very rapid space. There are maybe several use cases where, you know, Andy already mentioned that there are some successes being booked, or some, and when I see successes, I mean there are some virtual machines out there that are launching, that are getting some traction. I would say that it's very difficult for me at this stage to say where the main use case would be, is because the amount of users is just straight up lacking. So even if I would tell you right now, I don't know, when you want to do high volume algorithmic trading, which requires, you know, an instant like extreme levels of throughput, or payment, that's like, it doesn't really, we're not really there yet. So in terms of users, so and that's also one of the reasons why I would say that Ethereum is thriving, because again, what Ethereum has proven is that product market fit. And so when it comes to liquidity and users, you see a large volume in terms of Web3 inside this ecosystem. But I won't take anything away. I mean, I see a lot of awesome Rust-based virtual machines. I see people coming with their own language, the Linux-based with Cartesi that you mentioned. These are all interesting use cases, and I think that with the second rise of modularity, this is going to be even more interesting how interoperability and composability will become a thing.
Yeah, yeah, super diplomatic answer, and I think that's the only way to be, right? Because ultimately, it's all about expansion, and like it's also a trade-off choice. Like you're making a choice as to what you want to build for which trade-offs, and like you just accept it. Like criticism of trade-offs is reasonable, but like open criticism about like using something else is stupid in my opinion. As long as you understand the trade-offs as like the builder. So you guys want to be very EVM aligned and Ethereum aligned, then boom, also the VM rush to other VMs is going to have a ton of money in it. But like that's just how markets work, right? And so I'm looking forward to that because I think that like the new use cases across both VM stacks, non-EVM and EVM, are just going to push each to kind of think harder about what is best. And like that's when that's when next things happen that are powerful.
Yeah, and let me add just one thing to that. Change is good. You know, change and innovation is good for everyone. And I would say that, you know, the question right now was more about virtual machines, but Wasm is coming, and that will that will open up a whole new different way of within Ethereum and outside of Ethereum. So I will say that the reason why like another ecosystem would go for a different virtual machine usually is twofold: it's performance, but also a language that is closer to an existing dev ecosystem outside of Web3. Maybe Rust is kind of like the most popular at the moment. That's why I mentioned it. But honestly, and that's also a good answer, and it's trade-offs in design. I'm sure we'll get to some other spicy questions, but the you know, why scroll and choosing an L2 right now today, what most people I don't think realizes is that even today already you'll need to make, as a developer, design choices, and they will impact your application, not just on the distribution side of things, but on a technical stack.
Yeah, can you elaborate on that? I mean, when choosing a layer two, I don't know. There are dozens of ZK solutions. There are dozens of optimistic rollups. Uh, if I'm a developer, how to choose which stack to build on?
Yeah, I think that starting in the world of rollups, right now the two biggest types of rollups would be optimistic rollups and ZK rollups. And the optimistic rollups had, you know, the OP team, Arbitrum, do a phenomenal job, great tech, and they solved an issue in the scalability. But I think the main difference with ZK rollups is we have next to instant finality, and I'm putting it between quotation marks, compared to optimistic rollups. Obviously, with that arbitrary period. Now we know the arbitrary period is actually an arbitrary period, meaning not, it doesn't need to be 7 days, could be like 1 day, but I won't get into that. But when you look at finality in that case, a ZK rollup is much more preferable, especially for high stake transactions that require fast settlement. If you look at the world of account abstraction, you would like an L2 that is credible neutral, and where a user can very, very quickly get their keys and recover it. You wouldn't want to wait a week to get your keys to get access to your account. So these are use cases, let's say, for ZK rollups specifically. And then diving into the world of ZK rollups, I think that we're in a phase where we look similar, even though under the hood, ZK rollups, there are already significant differences. There are specific ethical, not ethical, no, but social choices that are being made, with some ZK rollups not proving everything, but allowing everything to be processed. So there's a trust in the sequencer. There are some ZK rollups that use micro VMs. So under the hood, there is definitely technical design choices that will impact on the longer run, and this also is just left to be seen. Speaking for Scroll, why you would be a home for Scroll is right now what we're seeing is where I'm coming back to the Ethereum aligned values, but expanding a little bit on that is that it is very important that the dev experience is similar, because for a multitude of reasons, skills and uh, speed of building, but also security. So we aim to be like, security is extremely important to us, and this is not a session to call out or anything, because this space is new, and we all want like good for the developers. But we've seen cases where it's proven to be extremely difficult to be EVM-compatible. Allow me to explain. ZK rollups that aim to be ZK EVM compatible means that your smart contract operates exactly the way on that ZK rollup as it will on Ethereum. If it doesn't, it means that your funds can be locked up, for instance, which we have seen in the past on another ZK rollup. So for us, dev experience is synonymous also to security, or it's very closely tied, I should say. And so why you would choose to Scroll is we're dedicated to have an extremely secure ZK rollup, same dev experience, meaning lift and shift, and we're an extension of the ecosystem. If you look at some other things like all major DeFi protocols on Scroll, the major dev protocols are coming on Scroll, which means that again, these are real reasons for devs to start building within the Scroll ecosystem.
Okay.
Awesome, man. I wish you were on our ZK Academy end of Q3, early Q4 with somebody, either you or somebody from the DevRel side, because the ZK side, what I've learned and basically what you're saying is ZK is superior because of this instant finality, but because of this arbitrary, basically block waiting time where you get these pre-confirmations, you have to wait to get the full confirmation to be able to kind of, operate in an interoperable manner for kind of how I'm thinking about it. Like it's like this, it's like this like push and pull, trying to figure out how to express like, yo, this is way better than optimistic rollups or other scaling solutions because of all these reasons. That's why we chose this. But now like the problem that we're standing in front of is like, well, like I gotta wait this time to get off, even though it's much shorter than the 7 days. But it's just, yeah, I don't know. Just putting apples to apples, I'm feeling the perspective and like, I'm curious. What's the technical solution for this on like the interop side? Like, how do we operate efficiently to get assets and data on and off scroll, enjoying the instant finality and all the benefits of ZK, but also somehow navigating the trade-off of like that. Yeah, like how are you guys thinking about it? How are you tackling that? How's the space tackling that?
Real quick to just like understand your question, because the arbitrary period is for optimistic rollups, not for
No, I
ZK rollup.
understand.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. Well, then what I'm saying is ZK has instant finality, but you still have to wait for the proving time to complete to be
Yeah,
able
so
to,
I'll shed some light on that.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So right now, if you look at Scroll, there are three phases of, let's say, when a transaction is processed. You have the pre-committed phase. In that takes usually up to 2 3 seconds, which is also our block time. And then on Scroll, your transactions are available, ready to be, your contract is there, ready to be interacted, and this requires trust for the sequence. The second phase right now is called committed. In this case, the rollup node commits the data, all the call data, on L1, and it's available for anyone to see. This usually takes a couple of minutes. And then the ZK proof that's generated, the aggregated proof over all those transactions, which is a batch of transactions, sorry, a batch. So it's a batch of chunks, and chunks are made of blocks. So that whole batch uh, is now, let's say, in the minutes. So that could be from uh, 10 to 12 minutes to up to, like, depending on how obviously big the batch is. So theoretically speaking, like, that is the level of finality. And so I know there are, several rollups that might lock it up for a certain period of time just to verify, even, or double verify. But speaking about the stats, that's basically the stats you're looking at. So that you're talking about, that's why I said instant between quotation marks, is that the comparison is, you're not talking about days, but you're talking about, in matters of yeah.
Yeah, I can understand that. But so that time is, I mean, my math is good, but I maybe like 10 minutes, 15, 25 right now.
Yeah, so that depends. You can search it up in our docs. We've got it documented there. But that, yeah, and we have also got a roll up explorer, and then you can see the exact times for each batch. But those are the timings. Yes.
Yeah, great. Thanks, man. Yeah, no, it's cool. And I think with more like light client based interrupt solutions, you guys will be able to get those things going much quicker because yeah, I mean, if you can just verify a couple of the proofs in one of these batches or whatever it is, I think you said batches basically, which is blocks batched up. Yeah, then you're then you can really speed things up a bit, and I'm sure you guys are focused on that. I'm curious as well about this applied. Unless you have something to add there, I'm curious about this applied ZK. So, if you have anything to add on that interrupt side, feel free. And then, yeah, I'd love to dive into what is being built and like what you're excited about. And
I'm excited about a lot of stuff, but I think that on the applied ZK of things, I think there are different frameworks out there, which are mainly building in the back of the mind on the architecture and design of EVM. So what I meant to say with applied ZK is, ZK for identity, ZK for payment. I'm seeing it. ZK in games. ZK in games is super interesting because they're maintaining state on a circuit level, which means, you move you move the person around, and then that's actually, to prove that the person has moved around those state changes are maintained on circuit level. So generally speaking, in applied ZK, I'm excited about it a lot. But the most thing I'm probably excited about is the dev tooling that's becoming available. The dev tooling that's becoming available makes it easier for full stack developers that are not necessarily, extremely low level hands-on developers, because that's under attention span, uh, to be able to utilize a library and then integrate zero knowledge proofs in their applications, and then uh, you know, uh, integrate that and deploy that on, for instance, Scroll. That's for me something that I'm personally, as someone gets his hands dirty with a lot of dev tooling as well. That's what I'm super excited about.
Okay, speaking about developer experience, so does EVM compatibility help you to attract more developers into the Scroll ecosystem? What do you feel?
Yeah, I guess that ties back to the earlier point, that because we're EVM compatible, it just means that, for instance, you use Foundry. Foundry is gaining a lot of popularity in dev tooling. You can just use it. Solidity, Yule, Viper, you can just use it.
Yeah.
So you can deploy it and use your existing skills, and that means that, yeah, we have, I would say, quote unquote, the availability of the developers in the ecosystem.
What works best for you to attract new developers to the ecosystem? So you are in charge of DevRel, so it's your what you're doing hands on, like on a daily basis.
Yeah, so a bunch of things, and that's maybe also, from a more generic point, what DevRel does, and there, and then more focused on what's the scroll flavor of DevRel. But
Yeah.
to give you like a couple of practical examples, obviously we're very try to be omnipresent in the Ethereum ecosystem. So what is already happening? The global event is a practical one, making sure, you know. Um, Developers can experience the benefit of Scroll by playing with Scroll and deploying on Scroll. So we spend a lot of time at these hackathons helping developers build, seeing developers or learning from these developers. So that's one of the ways. Another way is that we've got we actually have an existing community, and the way we interact with them has been working pretty well for us in the sense that when we have our Discord or we have our meetups, word of mouth is still very powerful, and we really do everything we can to not be shilly and community first. And I think maybe we'll touch about that in a bit as well. And community first for us means is we exist to solve the scalability issue. So how do we drive value to developers? How do we empower communities? We're not there to take over. No, we're not there to shill scroll, but it is showcasing our tech. But how can you use the tech? But also, how does it help you? Does it help you? And so our interactions with developers are through tangible activities, events, hackathons. Content is very important. Can we deliver on content that solves a challenge, an issue, helps educate developers, whether it's applied ZK, developing smart contracts, and empowering community, ensuring that we support the gatherings and support the ecosystem. Generally, again, Ethereum ecosystem as we serve and as an extension. And then a couple of other things I will quickly mention is we're part of the community, so we actively partake in the ecosystem, and this also means in our open source contributions. If you look at the amount of open source contributions that the Scroll team does, so that's quite a bit. So we, in every sense, we try to talk the talk, walk the walk, be part of the community, a- and create and I think that that's our brand as well. We credible, neutral, there to help the devs, there to help the Ethereum ecosystem scale.
You mentioned hackathons. I've heard an opinion that hackathons already don't work so well because people usually submit very raw prototypes, which die after soon after the hackathon, or they just, I don't know, build something on the hackathon, just, I don't know, migrate the project from one chain to another, and with no added value. How do you make hackathons work for you? How what is the, I don't know, best practice of taking part in a hackathon?
Yeah, I think that it starts with the end in mind, being the goal. There are different flavors of hackathons. I think that I think um, there are hackathons that are focused where people can just play with your tech. It's meant to be fun, so it attracts bounty hunters. It attracts people that are new to the space. I think eGlobal does a great job at that. They share their stats as well. I think there's just a misconception when it comes to expecting 60 different types of things from one hackathon, or very like split goals from one hackathon. If your goal is to gain high value projects that have a potential to raise, or you want projects that um, build very cool nerdy stuff, or have applied ZK, for instance, involved in them, you need to cater the hackathon and design the hackathon towards that goal that you want to be met. So I think I think that's the common misconception. Uh, so I don't necessarily think hackathon is a tool. So it will serve to however way you design it. So I don't think there's such thing as hackathons being broken or it's a bad hackathon. But what is the goal of the hackathon? And I also think that there's maybe a misconception around the 1 inch story coming out of an e-global hackathon. So people are like, oh, then we need to start doing hackathons because that's what will get us these $1 billion projects. Well, again, I've seen very successful hackathons, and out these hackathons, projects come that raise. They're designed vastly different than the hackathons that are meant to raise awareness of what is your protocol? What does it do? Is your name known out there in the Web3 ecosystem? So that I hope that answers the question a bit.
Definitely does, and it relates. Yesterday, we did an Arbitrum STIP Space Marathon talking about their basically community wide grant program. We had like 60 teams or something, 45 teams, and it was just like it was a verbal hackathon. It was like a coordination-a-thon. It was like whoa, and so like that kind of experience. Then you kind of put that onto devs for more like raising venture or just getting into the community and building that up. As you're saying, it kind of helps, and I feel like once these devs get their kind of infra down, which is why you said that was so important for ZK, right? Like if you get that infra stack ready for developers who are more, less custom made for ZK, but more willing to adopt if they have the right libraries. Like that subset, once they get into ZK, for lack of better like phrase, I feel like this idea of prove anything without or verify slash prove anything without knowing the thing, it blows people's minds, and then devs are like hooked. So I think the like that step of like content, as you said, is super important, and that education and that infra tooling, man, that's like the because then once you get into ZK, man, it's like you're doing recursive Merkle tree proofs and like going crazy. And like I feel like from a dev point, I'm not a dev, but I feel like it's exciting. So just wanted to throw that in there as far as like why it could be so important.
100%. I share that excitement. I think a lot of people do in the space. Honestly, and you worded it well.
What do you think about other formats? I don't know, boot camps, accelerators, hacker houses, something like some alternatives to hackathons.
Yeah, again, these are all tools. So it's the way they're designed, but I think they're super useful, extremely powerful. I've done multiple builder houses. It really depends on how you design them. Again, I think there are a couple of famous ones out there that are known for their vibe. I think notoriously, obviously Solana, and
Solana's hacker houses.
yeah, and all credit where credit is due, right? And I think that they've what successful communities in the Web3 space have proven is that you do these things right, and which means you bring value to the community, right? You put community first, which means the ending goal. When I say the ending goal is whether it's a boot camp, whether so buddy of mine founded Cypher, you know, have a great course right now, gained a lot of traction because they're focused on delivering that value. Knowledge is not gate kept. Very something we behind a paywall, something we also very much believe in. So I think that bootcamp's super powerful for both beginners and advanced users, especially when you talk about getting people hands dirty with applied ZK. Love it. Um, and builder houses, very 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 much hacker houses, very much depend. It depends on how you design it.
Cool, man. Alex, do you have something? I want to kind of talk about how Scroll is going to fill in this like launch a new chain on Scroll stack because like Polygon's doing CDK, OP's doing OP stack, ZK has ZK stack. What's like the come launch a chain on Scroll and like we'll fund you and help you type stack?
Yeah, I think the stack discussion, spinning up your own chain discussion is very interesting. Was just came back from Dev Connect, heard a lot about L3s. My my perception of that is that we're very much focused on improving and optimizing our chain so that we solve the scalability issue. Not to, I'm not going to repeat myself. Don't worry. I think the I think that when it comes to launching your own stack and chain, we're researching a lot. We're researching a lot in seeing it needs to make sense for the community. It needs to make sense for the developers that want that out there. So today, I will say that today, right now, it's not there. But yeah, we're looking at all alternatives that will ensure that when it comes to not to throughput and resources and performance, that will increase. But but it needs to make sense. So we're looking at all alternatives here. And by the way, we are open source. So uh, you know uh, I know of a chain that Forta started their own L2 in South Korea, and so that's all possible. And so we're very much open source orientated, which means that when it comes to modularity, I mean, you're talking about L3s, for instance, or like spinning up your own chain. I mean, this whole multi-prover theory is out there as well, right? Like, utilizing a prover network, or a multi-prover network, I should say. There's talks about shared sequencers. So where this whole space is moving, we have yet to see. And it kind of reminds me of modularity, I think 1.5 year ago, where it was like, yeah, hardcore modularity, and then it kind of like it died down a little bit. That's because we had to stop and think for a moment, what does it exactly mean? And yes, modularity is important, but I think we fit right in there because we're open source. And so we're going to find out ways where it becomes interoperable, these different components working with each other. And we're gonna find out what the best way is for the devs, and that's gonna be the way to go.
Yeah, man. The multi-prover shared liquidity across as many ZK ropes as you can think of, sharing the security of sequencers is like some crazy constellation model that your old friend at Polygon ZKVM told me about. Jordy called it a constellation. Maybe you
Yeah.
guys can take that and run with it, eh?
Yeah, yeah. We'll see. I think like personally, I'm super excited and have a high level of respect for all the researchers and engineers. But we're in a very interesting time of Web3 where we haven't invented the wheel yet, so to say. So a lot of these things they will be played out. I think right now what is very important is understanding the needs of the devs now, what we can do to help them solve these issues and scale. And then, like I said, we're open source, so we're already in the modular conversation and looking at how we can be of value there.
Do you see a lot of commitments from the community to your open source library, or most of the commitments are from your team?
Yeah, actually, we released we tweeted even a stat, but I don't quote me on, but a large part, like when you say community, I also think of all the researchers and like developers in this space, right? So yeah, there is definitely a high level community. I will get that answer to you when it comes to like how much exactly. But also when you say community, I mean community is very like a large, I would say, definition. So when you talk about, the exploration team, for instance, within Ethereum, like as a community, or the whole ecosystem as a community, I mean, we definitely got a lot of interest and requests on how they can contribute. But there, like the contributions of outside of the scroll team, yeah, it's very significant.
Yeah, that's nice. That's nice. What are the other ways to motivate developers to contribute? I don't know. Maybe some grants programs. Can you tell us more? I mean, I don't know. There are a bunch of protocols out there who are willing to attract developers. What are the other best practices? What would you recommend?
Yeah, so we're a home for like geeky, nerdy experiments, anyone who wants to build. And our value proposition very much around, performance and security. So being a very secure chain. Outside of that, there are things that you can do to make it more attractive. Like, let me talk first, generally speaking. So grants is often mentioned. You know, I think we were both there during, you know, last year's last bull, where a lot of chains were just like throwing money around, and that was a very easy way to, let's say, uh, attract developers. Now, I think it is important to support devs and early stage projects. And so grants is, for instance, something that can help early stage projects. The way you go about it is very, very important. So I've spent a lot of time giving these grants and talking to projects. And so guidance on how they spend the grants is also important. And so right now, behind closed doors, we're running a couple of experiments in how we can uh, utilize these resources best to help early stage projects. Um, you know, we're very much involved in helping them get to the next level behind closed doors. And the reason why I'm doing that, we're being very careful. We have a brand where we are very developer research orientated. We're there as an extension. The vibe and community focus of Ethereum. We want to really echo that. Andy said at the start, that we're known for being extremely Ethereum aligned, but that's not just across the tech stack. It's not just because we're EVM compatible. It's across values, across culture. So it is often perceived as vague, but I can tell you firsthand that when I joined Scroll, a lot of these developers came to me and said, great platform. How can we be part of it? How do we build on Scroll? And that was because of the way we position ourselves. Credible neutral. We're credible neutral. We're there to support developers and build, have an open source mind. And that is apparently very, very attractive for developers to start building on us.
Yeah, I mean, we've been talking about the off-chain now with the hackathons and the hacker houses and the different things that happen off-chain. You kind of just hit nail on the head there with regards to the community. The community side of things is very impactful for for how these organizations are perceived. There's this thing known as a brand archetype circle where there's like 12 or 16 different brand archetypes. Random things like innocent, lover, maverick, hero, ruler, something like this. You can actually kind of pinpoint subliminally which brands in crypto are which. And so I can't exactly pinpoint it right now for Scroll, but I'm thinking the same thing that you're thinking, and I think that those who have been around and see the community are kind of aligned on that vibe. Kind of deeper into that, how do you then align yourself with other communities that have separate values, but are also building towards a better ZK future? Like, we don't need to name the entire ZK stack or even the optimistic stack. But like, how do you think about this composition of the different ZK players and optimistic players as one? Because if you're truly Ethereum aligned, then the answer I'm setting you up for is like, oh, we want everybody to kind of win. We see this as like a growth and this kind of like, together as a whole future. But also you got to establish your position, and you have. But curious just how you kind of balance that competition versus like this growth mindset when it comes to the roll up players in around you guys.
Yeah, um, I would say if you look at our researchers, and if you look at actually the people in Scroll, we have. It doesn't mean we don't talk to you if you're not in the Ethereum ecosystem. As a matter of fact, they have discussions. They have like not only discussions, but uh, not only quote unquote are we open, we are open to learn from other communities. So here's the thing: when OP has a success, we're happy for OP. When Base is booking success, we're happy for Base. Jesse Pollock, knows our founders, key researchers. Jordi Bailina, you mentioned, he and Togrul are friends. So it's I think my general answer, I hope it doesn't frustrate you, but is don't believe the crypto tech Twitter, the tech Twitter hype and the FUD over there. Is that behind the scenes these people are very close because they understand. First of all, they're happy for each other's successes. They're passionate about the tech. They want the tech to improve. They are when some other ecosystem says we are community first, we don't doubt them. So it means that there, obviously there is you mentioned competition, and I'll get to that. But we don't doubt the integrity of, let's say, valuable conversations and other people when they say community first. And so again, it's talk the talk and walk the walk. Like you said, you set me up for it, but I kind of didn't because no, we do that. Now, when you talk about competition, I will say we're still very early in terms of users and developers. So that's also what I mean with a win for another chain. I don't see it as a loss for us. At the end of the day, we need more devs here, left or right. We need more users here, left or right. So I will copy paste the answer of Jesse Pollock, I think, during ETC, where he's like, our talk was after Jesse, and then he's like hyping up Scroll, and I really appreciated that. And that's kind of a similar vibe and passion that we share.
Hell yeah, dude! That was like a pump up speech, like before a soccer game or something.
Let's
Let's,
go.
let's go.
I have some questions about the mainnet launch. You've recently announced the launch of the mainnet, and can you tell a little bit about the steps before launching it, like how to prepare to that, and uh, yeah, tell us about it a little bit.
It's probably nothing that prepares you for that. Sunny maybe would kill me if I say that. No, I will say, um, obviously, the more logical answers, we had test nets running, and then if you look at our first test net, and then Scroll Alpha, then Scroll Alpha testnet, which settled on Gurley, and then we had Scroll Sepolia, which is our current testnet, and we had a lot of learnings from it. When it comes to the infra, when you with DevOps, when it comes to our prover network, we obviously learned a lot, and with every launch, we became better and better and better. And to be honest, and maybe it's cringe or maybe it sounds weird, but it was a breeze. We were very happy with how it went. We did the launch, it went very smooth. The Genesis block, it went very smooth. we didn't encounter any issues, and that's because of all the learnings and hard work that went into it. And that is the honest answer. So the practical answer is obviously any chain, like you launch a couple of test nets. There's a lot of learnings in there. You have user interaction learnings. There are things that you learn about the bridge, the sequencer, the prover network, etc. So these are all things that you get a lot of information from, and you improve every time. And also the ops and logistics and the launch and the communication side of things, that every time we learn, and we listen very carefully to the community, and uh, these things play a vitally important role for a mainnet launch, because you can only do it once.
Yeah, man. I think there's a lot going in, and now like the second order consequences. Like, all right, so now what? Like, how are we tracking devs, users, protocols? Are you guys looking for more like scroll native protocols to like build the native DeFi ecosystem out, or are you kind of the mindset of let's inherit a lot of the Ethereum DeFi, Ethereum kind of protocols? Like, how are you doing on the development side when it comes to like usability and functionality for people to actually like come and make scroll their home on chain, at least with some of their capital?
Yeah, so I guess the easy answer is both. I mean, we're here as an extension of Ethereum, which means that a home for the Ethereum applications, whether they live on Ethereum or will be native on Scroll. And I think that what we're seeing is, what we're trying to support um, is any developer that's limited by that scalability to come and build on Scroll, and then using the power of ZK of that, let's say, instant finality, which allows you to stick very very close to the Ethereum ecosystem. Also in terms of liquidity and interoperability. So sorry, I should say composability. So it allows you to stick very very close to Ethereum. Now, in terms of what we want, it's a bit difficult to answer. It's not necessarily what we want, what the community wants and what they want to build. So we see a couple of trends. We see trends in DeFi, but gaming just came back from Dev Connect, pretty much red pilled on gaming and on-chain gaming and the whole autonomous world. So I think that I'm seeing amazing developments in that space, and would love to see. That's me personally speaking right now. I would love to see on-chain games on Scroll, and I think that it can be. Uh, William Robertson from Alliance DAO mentioned a couple of, like, the whole comeback of board games, and like more like the design of board games on chain. And I think that they have a major potential. We see some games now being built. We see some native DeFi projects being built on Scroll, which we obviously love, and want to be a home for it. But the general answer is we want to be a home for the Ethereum builder. Security is like our number one priority, and then increasing the performance, whatever way you interpret that, better and better. We want to be, and we will support native DeFi protocols, but also protocols coming from other chains. And personally, I'm super stoked about what gaming will bring, in the next cycle. Did
Well,
I answer
there's
your
the
question a
alpha,
little bit?
Alex. There's the alpha. I mean, it's like, why even go on Twitter? You just get the DevRel Head on a podcast and ask him where to actually focus your time and scroll. It's like, dude, like, thanks, man. Let me go find a early stage game to angel invest in, because if there's three hits in the ecosystem, well, there's a chance, you know. So yeah, thanks for that, man. And I
Yeah,
agree. I think
exactly.
The ZK stuff enables gaming because of recursive proofs, because of that instant finality. It's all that, and yeah, it's really cool. So nice.
So do you think that games will be the main narrative of the next bull market, or something else? Do you believe in something else?
I mean, this is not financial advice. That's number one. Number two,
All
this is
in,
uh,
baby.
all my opinions are my own. The second thing I would say, uh, but I am extremely stoked about gaming. I used to believe in a architecture of combination of on-chain, off-chain. I think the most popularity that was gained on gaming was, you kind of have like your assets on chain, but the gameplay logic off chain. You had like NFT skins and stuff like that. Yeah, a whole world will open up to me, and I'm flabbergasted about how creative and how skilled these devs are, that they're actually building with the infrastructure that was available to them before. So I'm even more stoked what ZK and scroll can mean for them now and up and coming. So I think gaming is going to be a huge focus in the coming time.
Just to kind of chime in there, then I know you guys are, somewhat required, and as you should, to be credibly neutral from the ecosystem perspective. But just by maybe a term of just pure facts or stats, are there any games that are particularly more exciting than others currently in their stages of development? And if you don't have to tell us too much, but objectively, like are there some that are more ahead, and kind of what are you looking at on the ecosystem level? If we have a community full of gamers, where can they game? Where can they test these things out?
Yeah, so there are a couple of games today on Scroll. I have Qubit, Upk, Chat NPC, Sakaba. So there are a couple of like an Omni Kingdoms, so of Scroll Kingdom, sorry. So there are a couple of that they could bring. And honestly, if you go to ecosystems.scroll.io, you'll find them there if you just click games. Um, if I understood your question correctly, like what I see as being exciting, the type of game,
Yeah, like
yeah,
what could get ahead? Like, because to Alex and I, gaming is just like it's almost like this vast abstract concept of like So yeah,
yeah, that's accurate. Because gaming is like saying you're working with people. What do you exactly do? Or in tech, like it's very very well. So there are a couple of things that I see. If you look at AAA games, notoriously the AAA games, Call of Duty stuff like that. I mean, you won't find that right now fully on chain, obviously. But if you look at like the Pokemon kind of game, I'm seeing actually that them type of games fully on chain now. And there are engines such as Pyma engine, Mud engine that allow you to build these type of games fast. They actually have templates, so that is super exciting to me. Then you have these strategy based games like what's that popular like strategic game that um, you play a country and then you can build your empire,
yeah,
stuff like that.
Risk, right?
Yeah, Risk is one, and then there's another one. I forgot the name, but these kind of games, turn-based games, session games, are super important. Like are viable now on chain. So that's also something that I see as interesting. And then you see Dark Forest, obviously on Gnosis. So there are games, and then you have Sky Strife, that's gaining popularity right now. So
So you're
yeah.
saying like this like classical legacy game is going to reappear in crypto gaming, and that's why it could be so super prominent, because it's like, yeah, it's like it's like like we're starting off this with like a rerun almost of what's been popular, and then it could probably grow exponentially from there.
Um, Yeah, a little bit. I guess like the nuance I have to that is that if you look at Pokemon games today, they're actually, they're just a colored version of the ones that were like a while ago. I mean, I'm not talking about the Nintendo. I'm talking about the Switch ones. They're just like still the same type of game. The funny thing is that when you look at games, it's much more important that what's the story, what's the emotional connection, and now this is an entirely different story as to, this has to do with game development, and like look at Pudgy Penguins. It's the emotional connection that people will have with the brand and narrative that will make that successful. So what I love about these game devs as well is that they're busy with that. They're busy with distribution. And then when they talk to me, it's like, okay, Raza, what can you or what can Scroll do for me? And that's exactly the type of conversation I want to have. It's like, hey, for instance, when we talk about finality, security, etc., and then in the ecosystem. But I don't have to worry because again, Mud and Pymar EVM engines or EVM compatible engines, they will build it. So and the funny thing is because I understand what you're saying, and I also thought like it's like I'm so immersed myself like playing like Destiny, Call of Duty, is that you think that the most sophisticated artistic looking game is where the biggest population is. Well, let me ask you, how many users do you think Candy Crush has? And
Yeah,
Candy
I
Crush,
hear you.
so
Billions, no,
Tens
yeah,
of millions, hundreds
a,
of millions.
a
yeah,
lot, we can agree
billions,
on
yeah.
a lot. So and the technical requirements for that are not amazing.
Yeah. So you're just saying that gaming, man. I mean, to kind of wrap that one up there, like the gaming thought is like there's going to be a hit or two or a handful, and those hits can spread like wildfire. Like no DeFi app that's doing on-chain yield with a gamified aspect is going to hit like a game could spread. Like Pudgy Penguins too. Pudgy Penguins is arguably the like brought it up. Pudgy Penguins. I love them. I saw Sandy has one. It's a bummer that she's not here, but Pudgy Penguins are like spread like a game would, and they will continue to. So yeah, I think I understand why you're super bullish on it, man. It's like very much consumer facing, Web 2 facing, normal world, like permeating, and that's powerful.
Is
Yeah,
it
with
is it a pin? Is it sorry? Is it a pigeon that you have on your profile pic?
yeah, Sandy has.
But not Andy.
Yeah,
No.
I have mine. Yeah,
Oh yeah, you are cool.
OG
Okay.
Penguins are the builders PFP, man.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
true. Yeah, need to get one. But it's also, what I wanted to add, what Andy was saying is with now they're building these games with the benefits that come with blockchain and then ZK powered as well. So it's distributed and whole economy, etc. The whole thing, and DeFi can plug into that. Honestly,
I'll have to
Nice.
get you and Sebastian from Pima on a Twitter space or something, and just go at it, and just freaking do some gaming chat.
I
I
met
look forward
Sebastian
to it.
in Istanbul. It was an
Yeah,
extreme pleasure to
same.
meet him. Yeah, I love meeting him. Yeah, I'm down. Sign me up. I love Sebastian. I love Torochi game. I love Pima Engine.
Nice. Nice. Okay, guys. I think we need to wrap up. Looks like Sandy didn't join us, but nevertheless,
I'm
we
so
had a
sorry.
fantastic conversation with Raza. Thank you so much for joining us. A lot of interesting insights about ZK, about gaming, mass adoption, everything. So yeah, thanks Raza, thanks Andy.
Yeah, yeah.
Cheers,
Thank you
guys. That
both.
was awesome.
Yeah, thank you both. I appreciate you having me, and I hope I lived up to the expectation of Scroll.